For your lab assignment, there is just one program that you are going to be creating. And it gives you practice using var, constant, and array lists. So what you're going to do is very similar to this example. So I would, if I was you, copy this. I would go into your program, create a new project. And as you know, you can pretty much call this whatever you want. And I'm pretty sure I did not specify. Oh, similar to the example, and call it my list. So call it my list. And we'll go next. Net6.net6 is correct. Let's create that. Oops, I've already got one named that. So I'm going to say my list demo. You guys can just call it my list. I've already got one in my directory called that. And now I'm going to press Control and A to highlight everything, and Control and the letter V as in Victor to paste. And let's walk through what this does, and then we'll run it, and then we will walk through what you need to do. So this little program has a constant string called company, and the company name is Creative Web Designs. And then we have a constant string called year, which is also a string that it says established in 2010. And then we have a variable called menu that is an integer. Then we have an array list object called new employee. And right now it's empty. Okay, there's nothing in the initializer list. We have another array list object called employees, and that does have an initializer list. We've got Minnie, web developer 60, Mickey, sales 40, Donald, marketing 50. So it's got different data types, and it is initialized. Okay, then you can see we are calling a method called print company heading. We're passing it company and year. So let's go down and take a look at print company heading. So this is below the main method. And you can see it's a static method. It's not returning anything. It's called print company heading. It is expecting a string, or actually two strings. And it displays them on the second print line. So we get the little line of squiggles, which is created with a tilde, and then it's going to do the company name and year, and then we get the little squiggly line, and then it returns. Okay, so where does it return to? It returns to the place it was called. Okay, and then it goes to the next line. Make a selection from the menu. And then we have a menu that's going to print. And again, these little slash n's are escape characters, and they basically are the same thing as pressing enter. So it's a new line character. So we've got console.writeLine. So on the first line, it's going to say print all by index. On the next line, it'll say add. Then it'll say delete. On the next line, delete all. And then finally, on the last line, it's going to say quit with the numbers next to them. Okay, and then we're going to use that little menu integer, and we are going to retrieve whatever they picked. Okay, so they pick either a 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5. Okay, so we are going to store that in menu. And as long as they don't type a 5, we are going to stay in this while loop. Okay, and so you can see the while loop starts here, and it ends all the way down here. So if I click next to it, you see how it highlights that, and it then this is highlighted. That's kind of how you can tell that they go together. Okay, if I click next to this one, see how it's highlighted? And I go up, and that goes with the main method. So if you have problems with these curly braces, this is one way you can check to see which ones match. So we're in this while loop. We are going to check the menu to see if they entered a 1. If they entered a 1, we are going to print the company heading, which you guys just looked at. We just walked through that. And then they're going to print out the employees. And we are passing it the employees array list. So let's go take a look at print emp. So it's not returning anything. It is a static method, and it is receiving the array list. So while we're in this little method, that array list is going to be called emp. Okay, and so we've got an index that we set to 0. It prints out a little heading values by index number. Little separator gets printed. Then we get into a little for each loop. And I'm printing out the index number and a dot. And then I am printing out whatever is in the array list, and I am converting it to a string. Okay, and doing that allows me to print out pretty much anything. So this is a string, so it'll get sent to convert to string, but it's not going to do anything to it because it is a string. This is going to get printed, and convert to string won't do much to it because it is a string. But when we get to this number, it will convert it to a string so that we can print it. So it'll print this, it'll actually do the conversion on that number so we can print it. Okay, so that's kind of our nifty little way of getting around the fact that an array list can have numbers and text strings. And then you'll notice that we add one to the index here. Okay, and then we print the little separator line, we print a blank line, and we return. And we return to the point it was called from. And so if that tested true, we're done with this if-else structure. And we come down here, we print out that company heading, we print out the menu, and we read in their next choice. If the next choice is a 2, we come in here, we print out the company heading, and we call add employee. So we're going to come down here, and I should point out, you'll notice that we call add employee, and we know it's returning something because we have new employee equals add employee. Okay, so when you see that, you know that the method returns something. So let's go down and look. Here we've got add employee. How many employees do you wish to add? Okay, and then we read in the number, and we are creating an array list. And the only reason we're retrieving a number is so that we can do this little for loop, and then we know how many times to do the loop. So we're asking for the employee name. We're adding it to the new employee array list. We're asking for the position. We're adding that to the new employees array list. Asking for hours, we're adding that. Okay, and we'll stay in this loop for as many employees as they indicated, and then we're going to return new employees. That gets returned to the point it was called, which is right here. So at this point, new emp, this array list that we created up here. Remember, we created this empty one. Okay. Well, now it has something in it. Okay. And so we're taking our original employees array list dot add range, and we're going to add new emp to the end. Okay. And at that point, we are done. So we are out of this if else structure. Come down here and we print the heading. We print the menu and we select an option from the menu. If they choose 3, we come down through this little section of code and we print out the heading. And then it says, enter the index number of the person you want removed, and it will remove the name, title, hours. All 3 of those things are going to be erased. So we retrieve the index. And then we've got a little for loop. Okay, and so we need to remove 3 things. So we start removing at the index number. Okay, and so how this works, the index number is going to change. So we'll just do mini here. So mini is at index 0. 1 is web developer. 2 is 60. 3 is Mickey. 4 is sales. 5 is 40. Okay. So we'll just do that many so you can kind of see how this works. So if they typed in a 0, the index number 0, we're going to go through this 3 times. And it's removing at index 0. So the first time we go through, mini gets zapped, and all of these get renumbered. So now web developer is 0. 60 is 1. Mickey is 2. Sales is 3. 40 is 4. Okay, so the next time through, it's still going to be removing at 0, but it's getting rid of web developer now because all of these values shifted. Okay, and now 60 shifts up, and Mickey shifts up, and sales shifts up, and 40 shifts up. Okay, and then for our third pass, it's going to now remove 60. And Mickey moves up, and sales moves up, and 40 moves up. And we no longer have these other index numbers, assuming there's nothing else in our list. Okay, and then we're writing the values have been deleted. Okay, so that is how that third option in the menu works. Fourth option is pretty simple. They print the heading. We use employees.clear, so everything is gone. And then we print it's all gone or whatever. Everything's been deleted. Oops, it's all gone, whatever. Okay. So those are all the legitimate options. If they pick something other than 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5, we're being nice and telling them they made a bad selection and they should try again. Okay, so comes down here, we've got the company header, the menu, and we read it in. We will get out of this loop when they pick a 5. Okay, so the while loop, as long as it's not a 5, we stay in it. When it is a 5, okay, then we're done with the while loop. So we're here, and then we hit here, which is the end of the main method. Program is done. All right, so that is how this works. Now, what do you have to do? You are going to do something very similar. But instead of dealing with employees, you are going to create a to-do list. Okay, and you need at least 2 different data types stored in the list. you might want a description and a time estimate. Okay, you're going to initialize the list with 3 sets of descriptions and hours. Okay, so this might be a good initial list, especially the CIT110 homework part. And so then after you've got your little list, you do need to have 2 constant variables that you use in the program. So one could be your name and the other could be the month or the year. So you can decide what you want to use for those constant variables. But whatever you use, it should print out a heading similar to what was done, with company name and year. And you can decide how often you want that heading printed out. So looking back over here, what do we know so far? Well, our initial list changed, right? So, I mean, you could put my example in there and then customize it, right? So we do not have the employee list. We have a to-do list. We don't have a company. Probably have your name. You may want to do a month. I mean, you can even say task list here if you didn't want to put a month. Okay, you are going to need a menu. You're also going to need an empty list. So we might as well just say new to do. All right, so let's go back and look at the requirements again. We got our constants in there. Create a menu similar to the one in example. Print by index, add to the list, delete the inactivity and hours, delete everything or quit. So pretty much the same menu items. You're going to use a while loop to keep displaying the menu until they select quit. Use a nested if else to process the menu commands. Create the following methods that you will access from the nested if else. You're going to do a print by index, an add. And then for the deletes, you can just do those right in the if else. Okay, so it is very similar to the example. All right, so I would probably change this instead of company heading, I might just call it print heading. And the nice thing about this is that it is going to kind of flag anything that you need to change. So actually the red squiggles indicate errors, and they are kind of your friends because they're telling you what you need to fix, which I think is friendly. I don't look at it as a bad thing. So here, I think I'm going to change that from month to description. Print heading, name, description. All right. This little print can stay the same. This little print heading, I can pretty much copy. I'm going to paste over the other ones, but you guys can kind of see how this is going to work. Okay, so I don't think I need to really do any more. Obviously, you're going to come down here and fix this. You'll have to do a little adjusting because obviously emp doesn't make sense in this program because it is a to-do list. So you're going to add to your list. You're going to print the list, not employees. Okay, and so you can kind of come through and tweak this. The other area that you need to note that's going to be different is when you're removing an item from the list. So that is your menu 3. Enter the index number of the, I would say, item. And you might want to say that is completed, right? the description and hours will be erased. You're pulling in the index number, and there's only 2 things that you need to get rid of, not 3. And it's probably not employees, right? We're calling it to-do list. And you might say the tasks. The task has been. Okay. So that area was different, but I think you guys are going to get the hang of doing this. And if you do run into problems or have questions, you certainly can ask.